a 1-0 lead for the majority of the game, and then Birmingham sadly equalised, and then it went to extra time, and then it went to penalties. We sold our best player, to Aston Villa, Emi Buendia. And so I think, off the top of my head, I think we sold Buendia for, I can't remember, say 27 million with add-ons or something like that. Now, what we should have done was potentially buy another 27 million pound player, but instead we bought £5 million players, and we released a 7-inch single, and that 7-inch single got single of the week on the London radio station XFM.
Hello and welcome to Random Fandom, the podcast where we pick a random team out of the hat each week and then we go on a mission to try and find a fan that can come on and talk about their fandom of that team. So without any further ado, we pulled Norwich out the hat last time, and for us, a very, very quick response. Normally we're scratching around for weeks trying to find fans, but we've managed to find ourselves a Norwich fan. So let's fire up the crowd and find out who we're going to speak to. We know you're a Norwich fan, but who are you and how long have you supported the mighty Canaries?
So my name is Ed. I am, for my sins, a Norwich fan. I live in Swansea in Wales. I have been a Norwich fan for 40 years now, and been through a lot of pain and suffering in those 40 years.
Good news is this will be like some sort of therapy session for you. Then we can kind of take you through those bad times, but hopefully end up on the good times. So, yeah, when did Norwich first come onto the horizon, and why? If you, how did you pick Norwich?
Well, I'm from Wales. Well, still live in Wales. My brother was a Swansea fan, and I don't know. Between the age of maybe 6 and 10, when I got into football, I fleeted with the idea of potentially being a Man United supporter and whatnot, but that didn't seem to sit quite right with me. And my mum bought me, there was an old football magazine called Match Weekly, where if you're a 50-year-old, you
Yeah,
probably know that. And it was great. And I think kind of the centerfold was the Norwich City team of, was it the early 80s, and it was like a sign, and I decided to be a Norwich City fan.
awesome. I was trying to remember what my earliest memories of Norwich were. I don't know what year this is. I haven't looked it up, but I always wanted Arsenal to sign Rule Fox because he was brilliant and he seemed to score against us.
He was brilliant, yeah. So that would, I mean, that would be in the early 90s. So and you'll probably remember, though, the good and bad times, that probably the best times as a Norwich supporter was in the early 90s, when we had the dream UEFA Cup run, where in the group stages, to my recollection, I think we won 2 games, drew 2, and lost 1, and played super football. And Rule Fox was, yeah, fantastic. He was an amazing winger.
So I'm going to come on to that one in a minute. The kind of the Euro, the whatever it was back in the day, whichever cup it was in Europe. They changed the name so much now these days.
UEFA Cup.
It was the UEFA Cup, wasn't it? Yeah, we'll come to the UEFA Cup in a bit. But as we always like to do, we like to take people down to the depths before we bring them back up. So as you sit there and think about this, what's the real kind of gut punch that when you close your eyes, you think, oh, God, that's just the worst day ever supporting Norwich City?
Well, there's been a few. Um, so I think, I mean, our recent um, Premier League campaigns were obviously god awful, when you're living off scraps week in, week out. My worst Norwich City experience was the 2001-2002 season in the Championship, or it was called League One then. I lived in Cardiff and Norwich were in the playoff finals. I didn't have a ticket, but me, my brother, and my pals, we all went out to the pub to watch it. It was against Birmingham, um, and so I've seen Norwich win the playoff final about 10 years ago, and it was absolutely amazing. But losing the playoff final is hell. Um, so my recollection of the game was we didn't so much boss it, but we had a 1-0 lead for the majority of the game, and then Birmingham sadly equalised, and then it went to extra time, and then it went to penalties, and we lost 4-2 on penalties, and so the only way I could describe it, so we were watching it in a pub, so much hope and joy when Norwich scored. I think it was you and Roberts who scored, and then once the game was over, I was sat in the corner of the pub and I felt like I'd had a stroke. And and then it's just it's never done. Then the following that night and then the following weeks, I almost had like insomnia where you're just continuously thinking over that awful penalty shootout. So yes, I mean that takes the biscuit. Is probably arguably my worst sporting experience ever, even as bad as the countless England penalty shootouts in World Cups.
You have brought him low, Rob, haven't you?
We have, haven't we?
I don't feel qualified as a therapist enough to.
I've still got the wounds, but they're predominantly healed. So there's a happy ending because we actually got promoted the year after, so it wasn't so bad. It just wasn't meant to be, but yeah, when you're half cut in a pub and your favourite team has just lost on penalties, it's bruising.
Tough, very tough.
So go on then. Let's flip to the other side of the coin then. Let's bring you out of the mire. What's the number one moment as a Norwich fan?
Well, I think probably recency bias. I think our 2019 and 2021 championship winning campaigns. Probably 2019, we had Daniel Farke as our manager, who is now the manager of Leeds, and the football was just absolutely irresistible. It didn't work in the Premier League. It was really, really naive. But I can't remember. I think in 2019, I think we went up as champions with like 93 points or something like that.
Close 94,
And
apparently. Yeah.
oh, there we are, close. And
You,
it's just absolutely magic wherever we went. So we were dominant at home, but Farker didn't. Away from home, we played the exact same football. Always played like this really lovely diamond formation. We played like a nine with like a 10 behind. We just scored millions and millions of goals. We were a bit like Kevin Keegan's Newcastle. We were quite open. Teams would easily score against us, but we'd score more. And yeah, so I think recency bias probably the 2019 championship winning title.
Yeah. You guys
why did that?
Oh, so go on, John.
I was going to say, why didn't that translate into the Premier League? Then, do you think it's just because you're playing such superior opposition, or what was it?
I just think it's the gap. So when we went up, so for the 2020 season, we didn't invest in any players. I think we bought one player in, Sam Byron, for about 450,000, and we started quite brightly, but it was just a naivety to our play. We best described as like a really, really high quality championship team. And I mean, some of the games, we'd come up against Liverpool's and Man City's and we get like a 5-0 drubbing. And it's just a lack of quality. And if you look at the championship this season, I just think the gap is getting bigger and bigger. There's an argument to say that maybe the championship might be stronger next season with maybe teams like Burnley and Wolves and even Spurs coming
Tottenham.
down. Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think it all comes down to a lack of quality. Farker was steadfast. He refused, to hoof it long. It had to be like a really proactive, irresistible, free-flowing football, and we just didn't have the players to pull it off.
Yeah, because you've had like you are the definition of a yo-yo club. I was looking at this, and you've been down and up. I think you've set the record for the only team to have been relegated from the Premier League 5 times, or so. I might have got that one wrong, but it's something like that. But you also, I think, were like the only team to do back-to-backs into the Premier League since Man City in early 2000, because you had one run where you dropped down to League One, didn't you? And then in
Mhm.
2009, and then
Yeah,
you won that 2009-10. You got up in second spot in the Championship, up into the Premier League, stayed there for a while, came back down. But that one that you just mentioned, that's the one that just blows my mind. I think it's to John's point about why couldn't you make it stick? 94 points, you scored 93 goals, and you absolutely romp the championship. Then you come 20th, you got 21 points, and you're basically battered. You drop back down, you romp it again. You go 97 points this time. Bizarrely, you score about 20 goals less, but you just, 3 more points. 97 points, up you come. And then 20th again the following season, just get battered and drop back down. You haven't been able to get back up again since. It's just that's really odd because normally when a team finishes the championship so strongly, we normally see, well, I think last few years we might have seen all three promoted teams go down, but someone like a Sunderland usually comes along and kind of makes it sort of convert to Premier League for.
yeah. It's well, I mean, Sunderland have been incredible, and it's absolutely. I mean, I read the other day that they're considering sacking their manager because they're not going to get into Europe, but they've been incredible. I think so. It's just for these the last two Premier League campaigns, we haven't invested in the squad. And so you've just mentioned that Norwich are the epitome of a yo-yo club, which we definitely are. It's basically because we've been a selling club. Well, so the last time we went up to the Premier League, so absolutely robbed the championship. However, we sold our best player, you know, to Aston Villa, Emi Buendia. And so I think off the top of my head, I think we sold Buendia for I can't remember, say 27 million with add-ons or something like that. Now, what we should have done was potentially buy another 27 million pound player, but instead we bought £5 million players, and it just, and all of them were plucky footballers who would probably be really, really good in the championship, but they just weren't Premier League standard. And, if you look at so Coventry have just romped the league. I mean, there's talk of them spending about 200 million in the off season. And if you look at the teams who have come up from the Premier League, Nottingham Forest, they spent north of 150 million. Even Brentford's recruitment has always been incredible. So I would best describe it as we've always been a selling club, and like you said, we've always yo-yoed in and around both divisions, and I put it down to a lack of investment.
Yeah, because actually thinking about the Sunderland example, it shows how just one proven player can make such a difference. They went and got Granit Xhaka in, and he's
Yeah,
absolutely transformed that midfield. And they're a different team when he was out, either injured, suspended for a while. They didn't do very well, and you're like, well, if they hadn't had him all year, they could have been fighting down the bottom. So yeah, I think you're right. I know it's not the same, but when Spurs blew all the Gareth Bale money on about a collection of like 7 players, and like none of them were there a few years later, they were like, it's not. I don't. It's not always the way to try to bring in 4 or 5 players off the money of one. If you sold a world class player, then you should try to get something sort of decent in, as like you say, rather than kind of just journeyman or 4 or 5 of them. But
yeah. I know we're talking about Norwich, but I hope and pray every day that Spurs go down to the Championship.
Why is that?
It, oh, it would just be fantastic. Surely a big club's got to go down. So, Spurs they just make me laugh. I mean, they're one of the richest clubs in the world, and they continuously buy players that Man City, Chelsea wouldn't even dream of. So yeah, I'd be. I mean, I'd be gutted if West Ham went down. It's got to be Spurs. So
Someone was asking on one of the forums that I follow was, if Arsenal have to slip up in the title run in, we all hope that the one that we lose points to is West Ham, just so that it helps them stay up. I was like, I don't even want any talk of that. I just want Arsenal to get the job done, and then what will be will be. But there is that funny side of kind of like they lost to City the other year when everyone thought that I think Son was through on goal and he could have easily.
That's right.
He would have finished in his sleep most weeks, and it was like a pathetic back pass to the keeper. And there was all this
And their
furore
fans-
over they fixed it. They fixed it. They would rather lose than help Arsenal. So
Yeah.
if we could lose to West Ham to send them down, there might be a sweet irony in that.
And their fans were cheering, weren't they?
Yes, when he missed.
When he missed. That's dreadful.
Anyway,
behaviour.
Norwich City. I was looking at this one. I was half thinking, Ed, this might be, being as you said how long you've supported them, I was thinking it was the Bayern Munich 1, Norwich City 2 game might be close to being up at the top there. Now,
it was. It's just so long ago. I mean, I had a VHS sort of that, and there was the Inter Milan game as well, which was just amazing. I can, if you go on YouTube, you see the Jeremy Goss goals, which is just like scissor kicks. Yeah, they're just absolutely amazing. But it's a long time ago. So yeah, so recency bias with the championship winning titles in 2019 and 21.
And it's a trophy, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, one little thing that we like to do is we like to play chants for John to try to guess. Actually, this is pretty easy. I think you'll be okay with this one. So I was trying to find Norwich City chants. This is the main one that comes up. That apparently is very, very famous. Is always sung at the home games. So, but it's quite easy to listen to, John. So here we go.
Here we go, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so you might realise, John, I lied, and it's almost impossible to tell what's going on in that. But any idea which parts did you pick up on there?
Well, I got the title On the Ball City, which is their classic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Any lyrics kind of sticking out other than on the? I mean, you're not allowed to keep city, city, city at the end because that was pretty obvious. But
it's their classic song, isn't it?
Okay, so you're going to swerve the fact you couldn't understand any of it. So, Ed, have you been?
Well,
how often do you get to Carrow Road or?
No. I mean, I live in Wales, so
I know it's a bit of a trek.
Yeah, it is. So this year, I basically went to the Swansea game, which was pretty crap. We had we sacked our manager last year, and we had a new manager called Liam Manning, who was the Bristol City manager, which we bought out his contract. And yeah, I mean, you had just had so much hope. I mean, he you know, in the pre-season, he was just, his interviews were fantastic. He was so articulate, and he came across as such a really tidy fella, and everybody really rooted for him. But the football was ghastly. So yes, and Swansea weren't much better, but there was you know, when you watch your team and you just see those warning signs. Yeah, there was an alarm ringing in my head about how bad it could be, and it got really bad. In fact, Liam Manning lost his first 10 home games, and then got sacked. So.
One
the
more
life
here.
Of a the life of a Norwich.
Yeah, life of a Norwich fan. Another one here. This is a bit of a weird one. I don't think I've ever heard this being sung at a ground before. Keep your hands off my lemon tree. I'm not really sure that's a Norwich song I'm familiar with. What's that one, Ed?
That has never ever been sang at a Norwich game. that was it. That was me in another life. When I'm a 50-year-old man now. That was about 30 years ago. So
Just talk us just for the people that are listening. What did we just hear a little snippet of there? Because we went and found that we've been listening to that on Spotify all week, me and John.
are you one of our now 15 listeners?
He said 20 listeners this week, so I think between me and John,
What?
we bumped it up a
Wait,
bit. Yeah.
fantastic. Royalties.
So how did that come about? How
So
did you end up in a band called, was it Ruby Cruiser?
Um, so when we left school, me and my pals, we were in bands, and then we basically started playing in Newport. It's sort of been in the late 90s, and then we got a manager who took us to London, and we released a 7-inch single, and that 7-inch single got single of the week on the London radio station XFM. And so for the previous 6 months, we've been playing places like the Dublin Castle in London to one man and his dog, perhaps a few of our girlfriends. And then suddenly we were single of the week on XFM, and suddenly there were record companies in the audiences, and we signed a record deal, and we got to be full-time musicians for a couple of years, and trash hotel rooms, drink every night.
Did you wear
It-
did you ever wear a Norwich City shirt on stage?
I don't think I did. No,
Oh,
no.
missed opportunity. You could have been like Ed Sheeran to Ipswich.
I know. Well, the trouble, I've got a really, really lovely collection of Norwich City shirts. A lot of them retro now. However, I look a bit chavvy in them. I do. So I tend to just wear them in the gym now or playing tennis or something. So
Well,
Everyone Wants to Be Cool is my favourite.
oh,
Absolutely superb band. If people haven't heard it, then they need to get on Spotify, is my recommendation.
Spotify. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put the link to the Spotify Ruby Cruiser, and there we go. Maybe we'll get it up to 25 listeners for you, Ed.
yeah.
So jealous because it's like that thing that you all sort of think you're going to do when you're young and at school. Yeah, I'm going to get in a band, and then you actually went and did it, and that's actually amazing. So, and
It was great.
was that you on? Was that you on vocals?
It was on that one, yeah. So our claim to fame was the chap who produced our album was a chap called Chris Sheldon, and the year before he mixed the second Foo Fighters album, The Colour and the Shape.
Nice.
So yeah, so yes, yeah, and recently I think he produced the soundtrack to the Elton John biopic and whatnot. So yes, that's my very very small claim to fame.
So when I take my son in a couple of months up to Chicago to Soldier Field to watch the Foo Fighters, I feel like I should try to be wearing like a Ruby Cruiser t-shirt, but you probably haven't got any merch available now, have you?
I don't think so. No.
Did you ever have any merch?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, excellent. Anyway, sorry.
T-shirts against yeah.
Well, let's get back to Norwich and just sort of round this out as to kind of we're recording this at a point where we're 45 games out of 46, and Norwich unfortunately can't make the playoffs anymore now, right? But you know, you've kind of improved kind of year on year for the last couple of years, I think, in the championship. Your points total is slowly going up. I think, like you say, the problem is more maybe competitive teams are coming down and they're kind of taking all those. But what's your view on seeing the mighty Wrexham sitting in sixth? Are you one of these people that wishes them all the best, or have you got a little bit of that kind of bitterness to their charge up the tables?
No, not really. If anything, so if I could choose, then I think I would prefer Wrexham to win the playoffs. I mean, it's so the last game on Saturday, the last game of the season is just going to be incredible because we don't know who's going to get from automatic with Southampton drawing with Ipswich last night.
Yep.
No, I mean, if I had my way, I'd like to see Wrexham go up. You know, I've watched the Netflix documentaries, and I really like. Was it It's Always
Ryan
Sunny in
Reynolds.
Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Max, whose surname I can't pronounce. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a little bit bitter about if Ipswich go up, which they probably will. But no, Wrexham are well run club.
So
Yeah.
you have a big say on the final day, right? Because Wrexham are at home
Hmm.
to Middlesbrough. And the only other team that really can knock them out of the playoffs is Hull, and they host you. So Norwich are going to have a say in whether Wrexham take that last. I mean, I think it's in. Actually, it's not even in Wrexham's hands technically, is it? Because it's Wrexham and Hull are both on 70 points. Wrexham have got +4 goal difference, and Hull have got +3. So if Wrexham manage to beat Middlesbrough, Hull just need to beat you by more goals than they beat Middlesbrough. So it's a proper down to the wire for that 6th spot. So that'd be pretty cool to look at.
I think Norwich will win. I mean, since Philip Clement has come in, I mean, I think if you just look at the games this season alone, after Christmas this year, we're in and around the top. But whenever we've had a bumpy performance like we did against Swansea, where we drew, generally the next game we've been superb. We've shown no signs at all of our players being on the beach, and the club is finally being run really well. I think there are lots of players within the squad who are playing for their futures. I think there'll be a hard line, over the off season with players coming in and out. So no, I firmly believe, even with my yellow and green tinted specs, that Norwich will beat Hull, and hopefully Wrexham will be in the playoffs. Right?
So,
Did you say
so does that mean, Ed, that you're confident for next season then?
very?
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Long story short, so about 2 years ago, we hired a chap from Arsenal called Ben Napper. Ben Napper was the loans manager, I think, and whatnot. Now he's a the fans are a little bit divided on him. So when he came in, it was his first job as a you know head of a club and whatnot, and he made lots of really foolish errors. I think he had this vision of having a really young squad, a little bit like Brentford did, not necessarily going up to the Championship straight away, but having a young squad that kind of grows together. So he kind of ditched lots of experienced players who were really valuable. And then he brought in all these young players who were obviously really talented, but none of them could stay fit. So we had, a season and a half, maybe 2 years of being really bumpy. However, a lot of those young players are now staying fit. We brought in an amazing manager in Philip Clement, who was managed in the Champions League, won multiple trophies, and yeah, there's a lot to be really positive about. And we've got really
Fantastic.
also very rich American owners.
Yes, they own the Milwaukee Brewers, right?
Oh.
They do, yeah,
The Major League Baseball team. Yeah.
yeah.
So is it nice having living in Swansea? You have the bragging rights, in finishing above them this season.
I'm not sure. My son-in-law is a big Swansea fan. So on Saturday for the Norwich game, we went over to his with a barbecue, and we watched the game on the on like a big screen. And I just think both clubs are in a very similar situation. If you look, both a third into the season sacked their managers, and they could have quite easily done what Leicester did, and bring in and West Brom as well, bring in firefighters who are specifically there short term to get them up the league. But with Swansea, they brought in Mattis, Norwich brought in Clement, with kind of long term strategies. So yeah, and I think the Swansea game, it ended at 1-1, and I just looked at two really well run clubs, talented teams, and I think, so don't think there's any bragging rights really. I think, probably much of a muchness.
Okay, so like John said, you're confident in prediction of playoffs or higher next season. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, so definitely. So I think with the new rules next year, you've only got to be in the top eight and you can be in the playoffs.
Oh, of course. I forgot they were changing that. Yeah. Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good point.
And the thing is with the championship, if you're not in and around the playoffs, then you're fighting relegation really.
So explain these new rules to the listeners then.
So basically, so whereas now it's getting to the top six of playoffs, it's now the top eight, but the seventh and eighth will play a playoff to then get into so it just makes the playoffs longer. But basically, it's instead of 4 teams, it's changing it to six.
Even more jeopardy.
Yeah, but also, I mean, what will happen is you'll have like a team like Derby or Norwich who, by the skin of their teeth, will just worm their way into the Premier League and then just get destroyed. So
More
Yeah,
hard.
I mean, if it is, well, we know it's Burnley and Wolves that are coming down. So you would expect Wolves tend to be fairly yo-yo-ish, and even if they don't come straight back up, you would probably back them for a kind of playoff type spots. Burnley do the same thing as well.
yeah,
Whoever comes down out of, say, let's say it's between West Ham and Spurs,
Tottenham.
either of those just seem massively odds on to be taking one of those spots as well, because even if they've got release clauses for relegation, which I can't imagine a club the size of Spurs ever thought about having relegation clauses. So
no way.
they'll have to make a run at it to come straight back up. Otherwise, they're going to get hit with that whole big wages for the championship that we've seen. Like, I think that was what led to the downfall of Leeds eventually when they fell from the Premier League. They had all these big stars on big wages that they couldn't get rid of for a couple of years. And then you have to get rid of those guys, and then you bring in championship players. And before you know it, you're sliding down the championship. So anyway, long story short, there's 4, maybe 5 teams that already feel like they're nailed on for being in there. So it's just going to be, even going up to 8, I think it's going to be quite the scrap next year, I think, in the championship.
It'll be definitely a tough season. All the clubs you just mentioned will have parachute payments, and you almost get the sense that it's a bit of a missed opportunity this year because a lot. I predominantly watch most of the Norwich games, extended YouTube highlights, but the standard of the Championship football this season has been average, to say the least.
All right. Okay, well, time is kind of coming upon us. So before actually we fire up the supercomputer to find out what next time's team is, any other kind of little highlights, Ed, that we haven't covered? Any little stories along the way supporting Norwich? Or John, any little stats that you I know you like digging around in your stats. I don't know if you have any Norwich ones.
Stephen Fry and Hugh Jackman, I discovered in my research, are big Norwich fans, right? Which I did not know previously.
I'm not sure about Hugh. Yeah. There's talk of Hugh Jackman, but I mean Stephen Fry definitely. He's been on the board previously. Die-hard Norwich fan.
Actually, I've got one thing to ask about. What was your reaction to the Delia Smith moment?
I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. She'd obviously had a couple of Chardonnay, and somebody put a microphone in her hand. Delia has just been amazing. She was, her and her husband were just amazing custodians of the club. They were just diehard fans. I mean, they're not multi-millionaires, but millionaires. They've invested a lot of money, which I think predominantly they haven't seen a lot of return on that. And yeah, she pretty much sums up Norwich City, and fair play. They could have easily sold the club to dodgy investors, but they took their time, and they brought in Mark Attanasio from America, and he seems top drawer as well. So
Okay. Well, on that note, then let's fire up the supercomputer and find out who we're going to be following after Norwich. Here we go. Oh, it's another yo-yo club. It's another yo-yo club. I'm not going to make you guess, John or Ed. It's going to be the mighty Watford. Watford is who we are trying to find a fan of next. So if anyone knows a Watford fan, or you are a Watford fan, get in touch. Come on and do what Ed did. It's easy. You just come on and chat about your team. But yeah, Watford have won that. I saw it come up. I was like, oh, we got a Premier League team this week. It's like, no, we haven't. They're back in the Championship again.
So Watford will be a juicy episode for you guys because they're just about to sack their manager. I mean, they sack him on a weekly basis, but yeah, They employed Ed Still, Will Still's unknown brother, and it hasn't gone well. So yeah, best of luck.
Now, in the same way that Rule Fox is on my brain for Norwich, the moment Watford comes up, that's, if I'm really going back, that's Luther Blissett, isn't it? Was that Watford?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
no, it's John Barnes. Come on, if you're going to think Watford.
No, you
Yeah.
do. For me, John
Elton
Barnes is
John.
Liverpool.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough. Luther Blissett.
Elton John. I think
Elton
I've got
John. Maybe
from my music days. I think I've got Elton's number in my phone. Do you want it?
yeah, there we go. We got this Kevin Bacon separation. You get onto your buddy, and we get Elton on. That'll be fantastic.
Would Elton
Yeah,
John
right.
remember Ruby Cruiser?
Probably not.
I bet he's got some merch.
I bet he's got a
I
t-shirt.
bet he's got some
yeah.
merch.
Yeah. Well, it was brilliant having you on, Ed. So thank you so much for coming on and doing this. And I would say good luck with the rest of the season, but there's not really much point with a game left. So we'll just say good luck to Norwich City next year.
And good luck with Arsenal's final few games.
I just want the World Cup to come now. If I could just fast forward to the World Cup and then we've won something, I'd be happy. I can't deal with the stress of being it. On one hand, it's nice to be back in a position where you are worrying about making Champions League finals, you are worrying about title run-ins. On the other hand, when we were 8th and we weren't winning anything, it's just a lot easier on the nerves. But anyway,
After being
Thank
the
you.
therapist for you, Ed, we'll have to be the therapist for Rob next.
don't. Oh no, just fell off my thing. Okay, right. Let's close this out before I do myself an injury here. So thanks again, Ed, and tune in next time to listen to Elton John talk about Watford.
Okay, guys.